having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly. Just joking, being silly, just fooling around. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor, and good afternoon to the jury. Sure, it's Brian, last name Albert, Albert. I live in Norwood, Massachusetts. Approximately a year. My wife, Nicole, and my son, Brian, and my son, Brendan. 29 years? Yes, we've known each other since we were 13, 14 years old. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. I'm the oldest of 7. The next sibling after me is my sister Kathleen. Then I have a brother Chris, a brother Kevin, a brother Keith, a brother Brendan, and a brother Timmy. 5. So my oldest daughter is 29. My son Brian is 25. My son Brendan turns 23 today. And I have twins, or we have twins that are 20 years old. Caitlin's 28, I'm sorry, I said 29. Canton, Mass. In the house on Fairview Road, 11 years. My parents had lived at that residence prior to us. 45 years, Boston Police Department. Approximately 30 years, retired. My last assignment was the Boston Police Fugitive Unit. The 28th, I believe, was a Friday. On the 28th, I was in New York City. So I went to New York for a funeral of a New York City police officer who was killed in the line of duty. We went down the day before, so I believe that was Thursday. I flew to New York. I flew with a friend and a coworker named Eddie Hernandez. Yes, there were thousands of police officers that went to the funeral. He's a detective in Canton, Massachusetts. So I know Brian Higgins initially from work, professional relationship. I've known him known of him for 10 or 15 years. And then the past few years, more recently, we worked together on a closer basis, and I became better friends with him. On the return trip from New York, we drove back. So that weekend there was anticipated snowstorm, and I believe the flight that we were taking with JetBlue may have even been canceled. And Brian Higgins was leaving in a vehicle that morning, so we ended up driving, or after the funeral, we ended up driving with him. Eddie Hernandez and my brother Kevin. I initially went to Charlestown to pick up my vehicle. It was at a police station, Charlestown Station. It's a satellite station located in Charlestown. That was a Ford Edge work vehicle. So from Charlestown, I drove back towards the Canton area, and I met Brian Higgins at a restaurant bar called the Hillside. I believe so. It's on the Canton-Milton line. I believe it sits in Canton. After the drive home, he asked if I wanted to get some food and stop off, and I said yes. I want to say around 9:30, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure. So we went into the establishment and had a drink and hung out for a while. I did not. I believe Brian did, though. So around that time, I talked to my wife, I think more than once, and she had let me know that her and a few people were at another location in Canton. She had asked if I wanted to come by and see them. That other location was the Waterfall. I had been there before, yes. Maybe 7 minutes, less than 10 minutes. No, at that time, I don't recall any snow. In the parking lot for the Waterfall, which is adjacent to the door to go inside. So it's to the left if you're looking at the building from Washington Street. So when I walked in, I saw my wife, my oldest daughter, Caitlin. I saw my brother Chris, his wife Julie, my brother-in-law Matt, and my sister-in-law Jen. So my brother Chris's wife is Julie, and then Nicole's sister is Jen, and then Jen's husband is Matt McCabe. Yes, since she was a little kid, maybe 6, 7 years old. So there was a high-top table kind of in the front area as you walk in, kind of in the middle of the room. And everybody was just kind of around the high-top table. There was a band playing there. So they were on the side of the table that's, I guess, closer to the door as you come in. And then there were other people on the opposite side of the table that was closer to the bar area. Yeah, I kind of just said hi to everybody. I don't recall exactly, but I'm sure I ordered a drink. And then just kind of hung out with family and friends. There was another couple at the table. I don't know if they were there initially when I walked in, but there was another couple at the table whom I believed were there before I got there, but I just don't know what their names were. I think they're friends with Jen and Matt, but I'm not 100% sure. So they were, I believe, to the right of this pretty large high-top table. I don't recall. I usually drink beer, Mick Ultra, but I can't remember that night what I was drinking. So after I was there, maybe about a half hour, Brian Higgins arrived at the location. Because while we were at the Hillside, I had mentioned that I was going to be leaving to go to the Waterfall to see my family who was already there, and I invited him to come by if he wanted to. Probably after about a half hour later from Brian Higgins arriving, John O'Keefe came into the Waterfall with the defendant. So I knew John O'Keefe, but not well. I had only met him 2 times prior to that night, but I knew him to be a Boston cop, and I knew of him, and I knew some things about him. Depending on the year, I mean, sometimes it's upwards of 2,000. No, I don't remember working with him directly within the Boston Police Department. Yes, I knew where he worked. I believe he worked at the SORI unit, which is the Sex Offender Registry unit. Well, I knew him to be a friend of my sister-in-law, Jen, and her husband, Matt. I knew him to be a friend of my brother Chris and my sister-in-law Julie. I knew him to be a friend of my brother Kevin's. I've heard his name mentioned multiple times, and I knew that he had a horrible couple tragedies in his family, and I knew that he stepped up and decided to take care of his niece and his nephew when they tragically lost their parents. Although I didn't know him well, I considered him to be a friend, and our relationship was very, very good, cordial. And, I considered him to be somebody that I could hang out with and have a good time with. Sure, she's a female at the table in front of me with a black top on, long sleeve. I believe I had met her one time a week prior. I do, sure. I met her at the Hillside. I believe she was there with John a week prior. So I don't remember them actually walking in the front door. I remember them being in my general area at some point, and they went towards the other side of the table where my sister-in-law Jen and my brother-in-law Matt were standing. Yes, I remember having an interaction, or more than one interaction, with John. Came over to say hello, and we had some conversation, not for too long. But no, I think we were talking mostly about work. I think he let me know that the sergeant, I guess, that worked in his unit was leaving or left or transferred. And, he was jokingly saying that I should try to get a job over it where he works. I don't remember having any interaction with her whatsoever. I don't really remember what he was wearing for clothing. I believe he had a baseball hat on. Other than that, I can't remember his clothing. I can't say. I wasn't really paying attention to what he was wearing. I don't know. I observed no injuries at that time. Yeah, I believe we talked a few times, kind of hung out, stood next to each other for a while, like you normally would do at a bar restaurant. Yes, the band was there. I believe they took a break here and there, but they were there for the night. In one word, it would be fun. Everybody was in a great mood. People were getting along. It was friends and family, and it just seemed like a great night. I believe the band stopped playing probably, close to 12, and things started winding down, a little before 12. So I believe the first to leave was myself, my wife Nicole, my daughter Caitlin, and Brian Higgins left at that time as well. I didn't remember or notice that. I'm not sure. Into the parking lot to my vehicle. Okay, so there was some conversation relative to people going to my brother's sub shop, which is across the street, and he was maybe going to make some pizzas for people if they were hungry. So that was discussed. No, some people didn't want to go over there, and for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. So it ended up being my son Brian's 23rd birthday. So at 12 o'clock, he would be 23. So there was some discussion about if anybody wanted to go by the house to kind of say happy birthday to him. And I know my wife Nicole mentioned it to Jen and Matt, and it was said, I believe, in the group where we were standing. Yeah, sure. Anybody that was there was welcome to come by if they wanted to. I don't really remember the responses. I don't think I knew for sure if anybody was going to come, except Brian Higgins said he would come by. I believe he was at my house for a high school graduation party. It would have been the summer prior to that time. So my twins were graduating high school, and we had something at the house, and it was spring, summer of the year prior. Yes, actually, that was just getting over, I think. He was actually out back. It was more of a cookout type thing. And besides that graduation party, I don't believe he had ever been at my house. I'm sure he walked into the house, to use the bathroom or something that day, but I didn't really notice, whether he went in there or not. The waterfall. Well, with the time band across the top there, I can see some people around the table that we were standing, which would be this table area here. Tough for me to say from here who everybody is. I believe that's Brian Higgins there, but I'm not 100%. Doors this way. I believe I saw my wife, my daughter here maybe, and then I think I'm over here. But again, it's a little grainy, and I can't really see great from here. And I saw Brian Higgins, but I don't know if he's in here somewhere. Yeah, it looks like the exit of the waterfall, and we're kind of walking out. Yes, and I believe there was somebody else there. I don't know if it was somebody from the band or looks like a different person out front there. My wife Nicole and my daughter Caitlin. I would say 5 minutes. Yeah, so it had started snowing a little bit more heavily. You can kind of see that on that second video. So the ground was beginning to be, coated. It looked like. I believe so, yes. It looks like that. Had looked like Brian had gotten there first, Brian Higgins, and he was backing out so I could pull my car in. So the one back from New York, he was driving a full-size pickup truck. I'm not sure what make or model, but it had a cab on the back, and I believe it's gray. And then that night, later in the night at the Waterfall, he had a Jeep Wrangler vehicle that I believe is white, but I'm not 100%. He may have skimmed, he had a plow on his truck, and I think he may have plowed the driveway and then pulled out, and then we pulled in. I believe 3. So we had a Ford Explorer, a Cadillac SUV. It's a smaller SUV that my wife Nicole drives, and the Ford Edge that I already spoke of, and I believe we had one more vehicle that one of my kids drove at that time. And I'm just trying to remember. It might have been an Escape, maybe a Ford Escape. Someone could have had that at school. So I don't remember if it was there that night or not. Yes, we didn't own any sedans or any cars. No. So unfortunately, we didn't use the garage a lot because we kind of used it for storage, and we had a lot of stuff out there. So we very seldom used it. I believe I pulled in on the left side of the drive. I don't remember where Brian Higgins parked. I remember him pulling out so I could pull in, and then I didn't really see where he parked. So we have 2 front doors. There's actually steps on both doors, but one of them is, I guess, considered the front door with a large set of steps. So the other door opens up right into we call it the family room, but right into the family room den area. If I went in the door on the right, which goes into the den, not really sure what other doors people used. So my son Brian was home. He had 2 friends, I believe, Julie and Sarah. I didn't know Sarah. I had met Julie once or twice. And my nephew Colin. Yes, Chris and Julie's son Colin. He was just about 17, 18. He's in high school. He was just kind of standing in the kitchen with Brian and the 2 girls. Brian and the 2 girls were at the kitchen table, and Colin was just kind of standing there. No more than 5 minutes. He left. He just said he was getting picked up. I went and used the bathroom. I came out, and he was gone. After Colin left the house, nobody else arrived at the house. Yes, I thought you were referring to after they showed up. I don't know if he was still there or not. I believe he left before they came, but I'm not 100%. Yes, Colin was gone. I don't believe they had arrived yet. Yeah, yes, we did. We had a dog. So it was a German Shepherd mix, Chloe. We had Chloe for approximately, at that time, maybe 6 or 7 years. The dog was from a shelter in Dallas, Texas. Yes, rescue dog. At some point, I went upstairs to grab the dog and let her out back to use the bathroom. The backyard's fenced in, so I would open up the back door and she can go out, use the bathroom, and come back inside. Behind the back fence, there's a railroad track. I believe it's a commuter rail that's behind the fence. There's a gate back there. I stayed at the doorway, and the dog went to the bathroom and then ran right back in. She was out back for 2 or 3 minutes. The dog kind of walked around in the kitchen for a few minutes, and then I took her upstairs. So the dog liked to sleep in our room, mine and my wife's room. So a lot of times she would go up there on her own. Sometimes I would walk her up, and I walked her up to our bedroom. I believe there is, in addition to the commuter rail, there's other trains that use that track, yes. So it depends, I guess, schedule-wise, if it's the middle of the week or if it's the weekend. But, on any given day, they can go by 5 or 6 times, morning, more towards the rush hour times, morning, at night, and then sometimes at night and sometimes during the day. So really all day and night. So it's loud, although having lived there for a period of time, I feel like at least I'm kind of immune to the sound. I don't really hear it as much anymore. After I brought the dog up, I just came back down and hung out with everybody else. So everybody was in the kitchen, and then we have a connecting dining room, but it's opened. It's only, a difference of 5 feet. And then we have the family room den that's adjacent to the kitchen. But they're all close proximity. So there's a wall, but there's a doorway. So there's really no barrier to go from the kitchen dining room into the family room. Yeah, I think people were just sitting around, having drinks. Someone had a speaker and they were listening to music and just talking and hanging out. A pleasant, fun. Everybody was having a good time. We were wishing Brian a happy birthday and everything was going great. No, I was there basically for the whole night, except I think at one point I may have shown Brian Higgins some photos that were in my son's room that were upstairs. So my son Jack, who's one of the twins, was in the Marines or is in the Marines, and we had put some plaques and some stuff in his room upstairs. And Brian Higgins was prior military, as am I, and I thought he would want to see the photos, so I had him look at them very, very quickly. 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. I think Brian left at around 1:30. I believe he was the first to leave, and then others left after that. So after Brian left, I had gone upstairs and hung out and watched TV up in my bedroom. Yes, I had the funeral in New York that morning. We had the long drive back, and we had been out, and now we're hanging out at my house, and it had been a long day, yes. Yes, I think I popped back down at one point just to see kind of how long people were going to be there, and then went back up. I think Jen and Matt was still there, and Brian's two friends were still there, and my daughter Caitlin. So while we were hanging out, I believe the girl Julie Nagel's brother came to the house. I never saw him, but I could hear them saying that he was out front, and I think Julie Nagel had walked outside to talk to him. I didn't really pay attention to how long it was. I don't think it was that long. Just that we have windows in the back of the kitchen area. You could just see that it was snowing. Yes, it's a large bay window in the kitchen. So it's the backyard. You can see the backyard. The bulkhead is right under that bay window, and you pretty much have a view of the whole backyard if it's in the daytime. But it was obviously a little dark. John O'Keefe and Karen Reed never entered my house. It was probably 2-ish, not exactly sure, but around 2 or 2 o'clock. Can you rephrase that? Yes, from time to time, the doors, people would just forget to lock them, or we just didn't lock them. I don't, but it was obviously after 2 because that's when she came upstairs. We watched TV and kind of hung out together for a while and then went to sleep. I was awoken that morning to my sister-in-law, Jen, had burst into my room. It was early in the morning, between 6 and 6:30, I would say. She was very upset, almost hysterical. Something to the effect, John is dead. I initially did not. Probably a minute. She was very upset. She said that the police were downstairs. I saw a Canton police officer downstairs. I don't remember. Last name Lank, so Officer Lank. I knew who he was, yes. I didn't socialize with him. I knew him to be a Canton police officer. I had met him, multiple times, and I knew him to know my brother Chris. I would say more of a professional capacity, and I knew of him, but did not hang out with him socially. I believe initially he was by himself. Yes, I believe another officer came into the house. No, of course they were welcome in my house. Yes, we spoke in the kitchen area. So my wife Nicole, her sister Jen, and I believe Jen's husband Matt arrived almost the same time that I came downstairs, maybe a minute after. I don't remember the exact time. I wouldn't want to guess. I don't remember. 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe. Initially, the officers obviously returned to the house sometime after that. I believe that time he was with Lieutenant Gallagher, perhaps. I knew who Lieutenant Gallagher was on a professional level. I had not hung out with him on a social level. Yes, the second time they were there, they were invited back to the house via a phone call. Same area, family room, kitchen area. That may have been longer, maybe a half hour. Myself, my wife Nicole, my sister-in-law Jen, her husband Matt had arrived. And the police, yes. I called Brian Higgins because I think it was important for him to know what was going on and what had happened. I was not aware too much about a relationship with Brian and either person. Brian had mentioned maybe even that night that he was friendly and knew John. I knew of no relationship between Brian and the defendant. Brian Higgins eventually came over to my house, and my sister-in-law Julie also arrived at my house. She has a routine that when it's someone's birthday, she likes to come by and bring like coffee and donuts. So it was Brian's birthday that night, so my sister-in-law Julie was coming by to drop off some donuts and coffee, I think. She was out front in the driveway. I asked her to come inside. Yes, I don't know if it was necessarily me that informed her, but people that were there were explaining to her what happened. It was a very, very chaotic, unbelievably chaotic morning. That's how I would describe it. Everybody's reaction that morning was utter shock. And she was upset and looked very, very in shock. I know I was there for sure. My wife, Nicole, Jen, her husband, Matt. Brian Higgins may have been there at that time, and I'm not sure about Julie. Julie at one point left the house, and I think she came back later in the morning, so I'm not sure if she was there. Her husband, my brother Chris, who's her husband. I believe they came back after the second time, but I'm not 100% sure. The first time that Julie came with the coffee, the police were not there. Not from downstairs, but I had looked out the window after Jen had come up into my room and explain what had happened and before I went downstairs. I could see at least one police vehicle. I could see that there was something going on out front, and that was about it, and I just went straight downstairs. I don't remember if I saw an ambulance. There were emergency vehicles out there, but I can't remember exactly which types. I didn't see that there was a reason to go out to that area. The police had already been in my house. They had already talked to us about what was going on. It was a snowstorm at that point. They were trying to conduct an investigation, and I didn't want to interfere with it or have anything to do with it. I was made aware that he was taken to the hospital. To my knowledge, I believed he was on the way to the hospital. So I spoke with Trooper, last name Proctor, and then another trooper, and don't know the last name, first name Yuri. It could be. I had never met Trooper Proctor. I had met Trooper, I forget, what is the last name? Yuri. I had met him once or twice before. I'm at my sister-in-law Jen's house. It was late morning, early afternoon, the day of the incident. So I don't know the exact time. Before noon, I think. When my sister-in-law Jen and her husband Matt were leaving my house, my sister-in-law was distraught. I wanted to be comforting to them and be there for them if they needed anything. And I drove to their house. 7 years old. She's like a little sister to me. I believe they spoke with Jen, my sister-in-law Jen, and then her husband Matt, and then myself, separate. Yes, I spoke with them at the dining room table, and Jen and Matt were not present. I believe they may have been upstairs or somewhere else in the house. So I was upstairs when they were being spoken to. So the photos appear to be the front yard in front of my old house at 34 Fairview Road. So yes, this looks like the photo exhibit 58 that you handed me. No, there's no sidewalk, so the grass area goes right to the curb, and then there's the street. I would just describe it as a regular curbing. It's not granite, it's the color is black, so it seems like a tar curbing. So in that area of the property, first of all, that's basically the property line from the neighbor's house. If you're staring at my house from the front, the neighbor to the left, that's the property line area. But there's a fire hydrant there. There is a flagpole with the American flag and the Marine Corps flag. And there is we call it like an electrical box, but I'm not sure what the purpose of it is. Yes, I don't know if it's operable. Sometimes the door is open. If it's windy, the door of the box blows open, and sometimes it's closed, and we don't really have much to do with it. Yes, that's the same general area. What was it, 59? Yes, it appears that there's less snow in the front there. So my driveway was this area right here, and that's the garage doors. So the door right here we consider it the front door, and that goes into a foyer area. And then, not from this photo, you can't really see it, but there's a door in this, I guess, breezeway area, and that opens up into the family room. Yes, I believe it would be this one right here, in the corner. You say 6-0? The morning of the 29th? Right, so the roadway, I believe, would have had some snow on it. I honestly don't. I don't know what number that is. Yes, I believe that row of trees is the property line. Yes, they appear to be in line from almost the street to the white fence. No, we didn't really use that area too often. There's a large wood chip bed. You can't see it because of the snow, but it kind of covers that area, so we don't really go over there that often. No, so that's a very dark part of the yard. There's no street light there at all. So that's the front right door, I guess you could say, to the house. And again, you can't see the door, but it's inside that breezeway area to the left. So the door would be right in here. To the other door, and there's a brick walkway. So that's the picture of the ground in front of the fire hydrant, which is to the left front of my yard. So over the course of the next couple of days, there were emergency vehicles and police personnel that day and days following in front of the house. I believe it rained a few times during that time. I believe, so some of the snow was shoveled out, I believe, during the crime scene, and then some of the snow was just dissipating due to the fact that it was melting and it had rained a bunch of days. That was discussed in October, November it would have been 2021. Around that time, and it was post-COVID, the housing market seemed really good, and my brother, Chris, had sold his house, was in the process, and ultimately sold his house around that time. He got a great deal on it. I had known some other people that had sold around that time. And it was a little early for us because our children weren't all necessarily gone yet, but it was close, and we thought we could get a good deal for the house, so that's when we started exploring it. So he put me in touch with a realtor that ultimately sold his house. So we didn't end up selling until April of 2023. Absolutely not. Thank you, Your Honor. As far as being a witness as a police officer, I would say 100. Before Friday, the last time I spoke to Mr. Lally was on a conference call around the time of my grand jury testimony. I don't remember speaking with Mr. Lally since that time. Just in the prep, I believe I was shown a video of the Waterfall bar. No, that was for the prep for this trial. I'm Mr. Lally. Except for the prep for this trial, I had not. Okay, I misunderstood your question. I apologize. A few weeks ago, I was expecting you to ask if I had prepped with Mr. Lally. I didn't hear prep with Mr. Lally, so I didn't know what you were referring to. No, there is no difference. I just misunderstood your question, that's all. I prepped with Mr. Lally about this trial with Mr. Lally, my attorney. The preparation took place, I believe, I'm trying to remember exactly where it was. I actually don't recall where it was. Yes, but it wasn't at the DA's office. No, I believe it was somewhere else, but I can't remember if it was here or the DA's office. I said I reviewed the video. I believe I said I saw a video. I reviewed a video of the waterfall. I reviewed my transcript from the grand jury. I did that during the prep. I was a small snippet of the video, and just one of the 20 seconds of video during that night. It just showed the waterfall. It showed patrons. It showed myself and the other people I was with. I believe in one portion of it, I was fooling around with Brian Higgins. It means we were just fooling around. That's it. No, I don't think we were arm wrestling. I think we were just pushing each other, fooling around. I don't think I would call it play fighting. No, I don't think I saw that whole video. No, I wouldn't call it that. No. Just joking, being silly, just fooling around. If you rephrase, I think we were pushing each other, fooling around, joking. He said we could be asked about the night at the waterfall. We could be asked about back at the house. I just asked her how she was doing, and that was it. I think I first met Mr. Higgins about 15 years ago. I wouldn't describe it as close friends. It was a professional, something at work. We may have worked together. I think at the time he was a Cambridge arson squad member, and I think he came into the city of Boston to do something for work. We drove from New York to Boston, probably somewhere around 4 hours. The hillside. We went into the hillside, had a drink, talked, and I think Brian may have ordered food. I left prior to Brian Higgins eating. 45 minutes maybe? The video that I saw, I was at the high top table of all the camera angles of the waterfall. I'm sure he had a sweatshirt on, but I don't know what the emblem was. So I didn't know John that well. I had only met him a few times. Met him, it was cordial, pleasant, and I would consider him to be a co-worker, even though I never really worked with him directly. He seemed like a nice guy. I knew his whole story about the fact that he had taken his niece and nephew after a tragedy in the family, and I had an unbelievable amount of respect for him doing that. But I can't say that we were good friends because I didn't really know him all that well. I was saying that I met her maybe once, because in the next sentence I say I met her maybe once. I believe I qualified my first sentence with his second sentence. I'm not sure what I was thinking at the time that I said that. I was at the Hillside Bar the week prior. Several people. I'm not sure how to spell his last name. Well, I recognize the people within the photograph, and the background of the photograph looks like the Hillside. Myself, John O'Keefe, and Tim Daly. I have no idea who took that photo. Well, there were a lot of people there. You mentioned my sister, two sister-in-laws, a brother-in-law. Yeah, it was John, yeah. I saw a photo that was in Discovery, or to my attorney, that showed only, I believe, me and John in the picture. I think it's the same photo, only that's blown up to show everybody. I have no idea who took the photo. I remember having conversations with John that evening. I don't necessarily remember speaking to Karen that evening. Well, I wasn't there with her for a few hours. I was there with other people. Sometimes, perhaps not, maybe all the times I was talking to him, no. We were there at the same time. That's not my whole response. That's the beginning of my response. I don't know what that question is referring to. Is that for the waterfall or is that for Hillside? I think those are very similar testimonies. It's referring to the state grand jury, that's me. That's the defendant. I'm talking at the table. I don't know if it's specifically to her, but I looked like I was speaking, but I can't say for sure that I was directly talking to the defendant. I was definitely looking that way. Just the positioning of me on the other side of the table, I didn't have really much contact. I don't think that video shows that initially, and then I remembered that I had met her once. That portion of that sentence is false. Absolutely not. I wished he had. I didn't really notice, but I didn't notice anything was wrong. I don't know if they appeared happy. I didn't really notice. I didn't have a ton of interaction with John or Karen that night. Didn't appear them that they were drunk. The only small portion of it. Whoever wanted to, really. 9-ish, a Ford Edge. Wife and my daughter. Brian Higgins' Jeep was in the driveway backing up as we pulled in. I didn't want to block him in. I believe I pulled to the left side of the driveway. I would have been closest to the left side walkway. I don't think there was a car in front of me, but I'm not 100%. He had a Jeep Wrangler. I believe it's white. I think it's white. A plow. I didn't see it that closely. I'm assuming it can, but I don't know that for sure. I don't know. I don't know where he parked. I would put it more maybe 10 past 12. That would just be a guess. Yeah, and it could have been 12:07. My nephew Colin, my son Brian, and then he had two friends, female friends. I believe it's in Julie. They were sitting at the kitchen table, 17 or 18, 2.5 years ago. It was probably 5'11", maybe 6 feet, and probably 100 and, I'm guessing 175 pounds. After saying hi to everybody, I went to the bathroom. I'm not sure I have a bathroom downstairs. I end up not downstairs, but on that floor and then upstairs. So I'm not sure which one I went to. I think it may have been upstairs, but I'm not sure. Prior to going to the bathroom, Colin had said that he was getting picked up. The officer was in the house at that time and speaking to all of us, really. That's what the report says. That's what the report says. I didn't read the whole report because he wasn't there. He left when we got there. He wasn't there for the duration of the time that we had that night. Well, he said he was getting picked up, and then he was gone, so I assumed he left. Right, he was no longer in my house, so he left. I didn't physically see him leave. Are you asking? No, because Colin wasn't at the house for the duration of the night. And there were other people in the house prior to us arriving. I didn't mention them either. There were some females that were over prior to our arrival, and I know that there were people at the house prior to me getting there. I testified multiple times that Colin was there when we arrived. I did not mention it, but she was at the house, so that would be a hypothetical. I wouldn't consider that morning to be an interview with Officer Lank. Brian Jr. wasn't downstairs most of that morning, so he may not have been. Yeah, but I'm not sure that he was there at the time Mike was asking questions. Nicole and Caitlin probably came in around the same time as me, and then Brian Higgins. Sorry. Did I make a drink? I don't know. Probably just would have been whatever was at the house, a beer or something. We just kind of hung out, talked. I didn't go to the basement. I think I did go upstairs prior to that night. I did describe it that way. Yeah, I think she wanted to use the bathroom. It's not the first time ever, but she didn't bark often. Well, I can't say why she was barking. I let her out to use the bathroom, so I think that's probably why. For a few minutes, I think. The dog was in my room. I was sleeping in my room. Well, that doesn't mean that's where she always is. She also sleeps in the closet area sometimes. I didn't say she was in the closet. I said she sleeps in the closet area. Chloe was rehomed in, I believe, May of 2022. Well, after it was involved, she was involved in a dog fight with another dog out front. Approximately 6 or 7 years. I believe 2 women went to the hospital. I heard some talk about it. John O'Keefe was never in my house before or after that date. If you were facing the house, they would be far left corner. The house had 34 Fairview Road, the front lawn. Right, I mean, it's the whole front lawn, but the windows are, so the view's the whole front yard. The bed would be in the middle of the bedroom, maybe 5 feet, 6 feet. You walk straight ahead, you pass the kitchen dining room area opening on your right-hand side, and there's a door on the left. The basement had a weight room in one of the rooms, and the other room was nothing at the time. It had been water damage due to an overflowed toilet. Not a long staircase, very small, but there's a bulkhead door you can use. It comes out to the backyard right at the kitchen area. You can see it from the kitchen. So the bulkhead door opens straight up. It opens straight up to the bay windows that are in the kitchen. The whole thing looks different to me. So that's my backyard. That's a gate to the front yard. The downstairs door, the door itself, the wooden door itself also looks different. But it is the stairway. It looked like the video was from walking from the backyard towards the front yard. And my parents built the house in the late 70s, 79 maybe. That's the time we listed it. Well, that's not the timing, actually. We contacted the realtor in 2021, finally listed it in 2022. So that would be pre-incident. It's not a coincidence because we started trying to look into selling the house in 2021, which was the few months prior to the incident. Sergeant Detective, primarily fugitive investigations. There's civil service tests for the rank. My parameters were investigating fugitive investigations. That was my specialty, I guess you could say. I've never gone to a training for criminals to cover up conduct, no. Sometimes we do, but I don't have any training in several years. I'm not sure how many, but multiple years. I can't say, I believe so, right around that time. Subsequent to me upgrading my phone, I spoke with the DA's office. So after that, they told me via a phone call that that was the case. It was a conference call. I believe Steve Nelson and other witnesses in the case were on the conference call. I believe it was Brian Higgins, I believe Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, and maybe somebody else, but I can't recall. I believe it was somebody in the DA's office, so either Mr. Lally or Steve Nelson, somebody like that. During the conversation, Mr. Lally said that the defense had filed a motion to ask for the phones to be preserved. That's what I remember him saying. No, the phone wasn't destroyed. I upgraded the phone. I did not destroy any data on any phone. I upgraded my phone. I don't know that. I think some things come over across contacts, things like that, so I don't know that for sure. I don't know that. Years. Multiple times. Usually my contacts come over and my photos come over. So no, I don't think I have that on backup, but because he took the phone and has it. I'm sure that the data is not there anymore. I'm sure. I don't know that for a fact. I know that some things are transferred back to the new phone. Some data, I guess, isn't. At some point, I was made aware of that. My phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone. I traded my phone and upgraded it. I upgraded my phone in September, third week of September, maybe around 22nd. I believe so. I can't be sure the exact date. I upgraded my phone on and around the 22nd, 4 or 5 times. Well, I think some data transfers and some doesn't. Some of the data transfers to your new phone. I upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but I don't think it was after the 22nd. September 4th was my birthday. The phone was broken and failing. I had planned on getting a new phone, and that just happened to be the day that I got it. I don't think I talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of my phones. He conducted an interview with my wife, and I don't remember if it was the 29th or the 30th. No, I wish they had. 4 years? Not hand-to-hand combat, no. Defensive tactics. Well, it's not hand-to-hand combat, no. I've boxed in the past, and I've trained to box. I may have been shown training, but I don't think I was having a boxing match. Looks like myself and Brian Higgins. I don't think that we went over it, but he showed me a quick clip of it. Yeah, I just said, yeah, it looks like we were fooling around. Right, I said, I think we were just fooling around. Yeah, just having fun with my friends and hanging out and fooling around. Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly. I was playing around, sort of getting in a boxing stance. Yeah, for a second, it looked like he was kind of doing the same thing. Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. We were just being silly, fooling around, having fun. I don't think it was that serious. We were just playing, fooling around. Yeah, for a second or two. That's indicating being silly. I didn't notice that, but Brian Higgins is the guy on the right with the hooded sweatshirt and the emblem on the back. I have a pointer. Do you want me to use it? So that's Brian Higgins, and that's me. It looks like I'm just being silly, fooling around. Bear hugging somebody? No. That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy. I don't know, he pretended to knee me or something. I don't know what his intent was. It looks like he's just fooling around, just like I was. Practicing, that's not how I see that. I just describe it as him fooling around. We're in the bar together, we're good friends, and we're just being silly and fooling, that's all. The only person I remember being physical with was fooling around with Brian. I went upstairs and just lied in bed. The TV was on. I was just kind of watching TV. We may have had one on each in that house. The phone was in bed with me. I had the phone in the bed with me. And we have 5 kids, and, if somebody was trying to call or if I needed to reach them, it's just kind of a habit I do. I put my reading glasses and my phone in bed with me. Sometimes I charge it, but not as a routine, no. Well, if it's dying, then I'll put it in the charger, but if not, I just leave it on the bed. That night, the phone was on the bed. Well, I remember the phone being on the bed. No, I just know as a routine, I keep my phone on the bed with me. My answer is that sometimes I, of course, charge my battery, but I sleep with the phone in my bed. Yes, mostly every night. If the phone needs to be charged, I charge it, but I sleep in bed with my phone. I don't remember if it did, but I slept in bed with the phone. That's just what I've always done. I just keep it in my bed. My wife does the same thing. Sometimes it's on vibrate, sometimes it's on ring. It depends. All I can answer is that I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do. I inadvertently called Brian Higgins. I don't recall the exact time. After 2. Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent. Well, it's kind of like a butt dial. I don't believe I said that's how I butt dialed Brian Higgins. I think I said there was a time frame that was close. Okay. So I didn't say that, no. I'm not sure if you have something you can read me or show me. Right, I'm not going to be able to read it right now. I'll do it as you ask. I've seen some records before. I don't know if these exact records or not. According to this, it's Brian Higgins. It says 1 second. That's what the records reflect. I did not answer it. I just know I didn't answer the call. Well, I don't know. I don't know that to be a fact. I just know I didn't answer the phone call. I missed the call. I don't know that. I don't think I've ever noticed that it's in red, so no, I don't know that to be true. If I were to go back and look at my incoming calls, it would probably say missed call. No, I wasn't aware of that call. If I checked my voicemails and there was a voicemail, I would get it. The phone will lock after it's not used for a while. I don't know the exact timing of it. Well, no, I also have face recognition too, so it can open that way without any passcode. I don't know that the phone was locked. I could have been looking through my phone. I butt dial people often and make inadvertent calls. I could have hit a last call from him by accident, thus calling his phone. I was awake and I could have been looking at my phone. Well, my wife was in the room with me and we were hanging out and I never got the second call from him. So I'm not sure what time he called. I'm not sure what I was doing at that second. Well, I didn't get a voicemail from him. No. Well, I don't know that it didn't go to voicemail. I just know that I didn't receive a voicemail from him. I mean, we're all guessing here, but I mean, he could have called voicemail. You are, because you don't know if he left a voicemail or didn't, or at least got voicemail and then hung up the phone. I think you can hit, I think it comes up green or red for the phone call, whether it's locked or not, and you can hit green. No, I don't think it has to be swiped. But Chloe's not a human, so it was myself and my wife. I don't remember answering that call. Could have hit the phone by accident, causing it to answer. No, my testimony is that I don't know. You're asking me how it could have answered, and I'm trying to answer your question. That next morning, while everything was going on, I mentioned to Brian that I may have butt dialed you last night. Sorry about that. We did not say that. I upgraded my phone, but that's not when I was awoken by my sister-in-law. Can I look at this? At 7:20, I called Brian Higgins. Yeah, that was later in the morning when he came to the house. I informed him of what was going on at my house. We were out the night before, and I thought it was important for him to know what had happened. He didn't leave me a voicemail, but I think he called me. I don't know the subject of all these calls, no. Of course, it was a horrible situation that was going on. Everybody was distraught, and there were a lot of phone calls. This call log doesn't encompass all the phone calls. There are a lot of phone calls being made to a lot of people because of this horrible situation. It looked like there were other people at the table as well as situated right behind where she was sitting. Those are my relatives and friends, and that's why I was at that location. I went to Jen's house because she's my sister-in-law. She was going through an awful time that morning, as we all were, and I wanted to be there to comfort her if she needed anything. Because we're so close, I didn't want her to feel like this was too much for her to handle. I've known Jen since she was probably 6 or 7 years old. She's like a sister to me. All I meant was that she wasn't overly affectionate with strangers. She was a heavy dog. Not everybody likes dogs. So if there's going to be people at the house that don't know the dog, they might not particularly want her around them. The people in the house, never has the dog, to my knowledge, been aggressive to anybody except for the time that there was a fight between two dogs. I did notice that. I don't recall, but oftentimes those lights are off and sometimes the bulbs don't even work in them. I went to a funeral that morning in New York. Police officer in New York that had been murdered while on duty, and that was his funeral. Only a few hours, probably 3.5, 4 hours. Initially when I woke up and I was told what was going on out front, I looked out my window and I saw some emergency vehicles. I did not see John at that time. I came downstairs with my wife and she asked, where was John? And Jen said that at that time, there was no victim out in front of my house. So there was no first aid for me to give. There was nothing I could do. So the bulkhead door is directly under the bay windows in the kitchen. The bulkhead door opens up almost directly into the windows, obviously without hitting them, but it opens up into the front of the bay windows. No, those are not the doors we had. A loud creaking, old rusty metal sound when you opened it. So the bulkhead door was shut and it was broken, so sometimes you could turn the metal thing to lock it, and sometimes it would be hard to do. But the wooden door that goes into the basement has a lock on the doorknob. That is a door that we keep locked because we don't use it. So we also have a gate on the rear part of the fence, and there's also a gate on the opposite side of the house. So that leads to some woods, and then eventually you'll hit some train tracks. It was denied on multiple occasions, close to 20 years ago. Yes, and within the academy, you go to the defensive tactics training. So oftentimes, using the phone within my house, it seemed like it was, and it's a slang term, the dead zone for the phone. The reception wasn't great. I don't recall the exact timing, but I know it was opened sometimes, and then it was closed, obviously, at some point, but I don't know the exact timing. No, it looks like it's selective people and numbers. In general, I'm sure there was some discussion about the awful thing that had taken place, and there may have been other calls unrelated as well. John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant, would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in, and I wish they had. I really do. It came up during one of the preps. Well, we had the prep before the grand jury, and then I had the prep for this trial. The conversation came up. So the prep was at the district attorney's office, which is in Canton. I was just thinking about it in my head and reminded myself that it was the DA's office. You caught me off guard when you had asked me. I didn't have it at the top of mind. Just how much time I was going to have left on the stand. Yeah, I think he was going to lunch or doing something. Maybe mentioned one thing he may ask me, but that was it. Just he was going to ask about what happened at the house in the morning. That's, some of the questions on redirect, that's all. He was going to ask about the morning of the incident, about coming downstairs and why I didn't go outside. No, I believe the phone was upgraded prior to the preservation order. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly. Just joking, being silly, just fooling around.